Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Craft House Magic podcast. So thanks to all of you who watched last episode, and thanks to everybody who gives me the thumbs up and subscribed. It's so nice to see your lovely comments as well, so welcome. So my name's Ellie Jones, and you can find me on Ravelry as LEB93, on Instagram as Craft House Magic, and I also have my website, which is crafthousemagicco.uk, which you can find some articles that I sometimes post, and links to my other sites such as my Facebook and Pinterest, etc. I also have a few free patterns on there that you can take a look at as well. So today I've got some finished objects, I've got some items that I've been working on from last week, and I've got a few new projects that I've nearly got on the needle, so caked up, ready to go. I've got some spinning, some bobbin lace and some purchases. So to start with, I'll start with finished objects. So those of you who watched last week and know I was working on the Featherweight cardigan. So I've actually finished it, woohoo! So I did the Fibonacci sequence around the neck. I don't know whether you can see it there. So it just flattens out the band around the neck, and then you have a little curled edge around the edge there. So I was really pleased with that actually, and once it is blocked it's actually come up really nicely. I haven't got it on today because it's a little bit warm, so maybe when it's a bit cooler I'll put some pictures on Instagram. So last week I was, well, not last week, the last episode, I was talking about the rib and how my pearl seems to be tighter, so that on the inside my rib actually looks neater. So next time I'll knit it the other way around, or just knit into the back loop. What I also wanted to say about this is that a lot of people that have done the Featherweight say that they find that the arms are quite tight, but what I did was I measured around the top of my arm and then compared the pattern size and went with the number of stitches that they picked up for the size that fits my arm rather than the size that I've knitted as a whole. So I obviously had plenty of room then for my arm to fit in, so that's really lovely. I'm really pleased with that. Absolutely love the colour, although it is very slightly scratchy, even though after I've washed it I think I'm quite a sensitive person. I'll have to see how I get on with that, but I'm really pleased with how it knitted up and how it looks. It's just that I'm a bit of a sensitive soul, I think. We'll have to see how it wears. I haven't worn it yet, so I'm pleased with that. So secondly, I'm on to my half finished object. So this is the pair of socks that I was knitting for Adam, and they're knitted out of the Trekking XXL sock yarn, and I'm really pleased actually with the really nice bright colour striping there that's going on. So I knitted this sort of off the top of my head, the pattern, just with a 2x2 rib, about 7.5 inch leg, and then I've done a slip stitch heel, which I showed. I think I'd started that last time, I'm not sure. Slip stitch heel, decreased to the same amount of stitches that I had up here, and then I've done a crazy long toe. Now Adam has very long toes, so it looks rather strange on the blocking wires, but it actually does fit his feet. So he'd be very embarrassed for me to tell everybody that he has these strangely shaped feet. They look quite normal actually, but when you're knitting a sock you do need to have these extra long toes really. So this extra long toe pattern I got from the sock architecture book by Lara Neal. I think that's correct. Yeah, Lara Neal. And she'd got a long wedge toe, and that's the pattern I used for the toe on these pair. But I'm really pleased with how those come out. They're not actually been blocked properly yet, and they're probably a little bit big for these sock blockers. They're medium-sized ones. I think I need to purchase some larger ones, but you get the idea. So I'm quite chuffed with that. So I'm on to the second one of those now. Now last week I showed you a couple of other projects that I'd already started knitting. So these are my sprouting socks, and they are absolutely gorgeous. This is the project I've been working on most since I've sort of finished my other sock and the cardigan. But I'm really pleased with how, I love how the colours are in this yarn, and the yarn is Ball of Love yarns. I showed you this last week. I noticed that Lizzie is actually, she's closed her shop for a while from the Ball of Love yarns, and she's changing her name, so I can't remember the name of her new shop off the top of my head. In the next episode I'll mention what her new shop's called if you're after some of her gorgeous dyed yarn. I don't think she's opening her shop till October anyway, so you might be able to get your hands on some of these gorgeous brightly coloured yarns that she sells. And I absolutely love the way that these cables have come out. So you've got two types of cable. I don't actually know what they're called or whether there is any name for them, but you've got this sort of open type cable that goes all the way around, and on either side you've got this sort of double cable on either side of the sock, and I'm really pleased with that. I'd actually forgotten how really easy that cables are, and I'm just so addicted to them now, so I'm going to have to do loads more. So I'm really pleased with that. So I can't remember if I mentioned, but that was the sprouting pattern from Hedgehog Fibers, and that's a free pattern, so you can download that for free. Now, so I showed you last time that I was doing the Emiliana shawl, which is this gorgeous 2-colour shawl. I haven't actually done very much of it, as you can see. I've done a few lines, but unfortunately I think I've made some mistakes because I was trying to knit on it after a glass of wine, and it doesn't take very much to put me off my stitching. And this yarn is really difficult to see the pattern when it's either late at night or I've had a glass of wine, so not a good idea. So that hasn't moved on very much from the last time, but I hope to focus on that next and get that finished on off the needles, because I've had it on the needles absolutely ages. I know that Lizzie Plus 5's doing a whip down, so I'm going to try and include that in the whip down. Right, so I've got 3 projects that I've kind of got the yarn and needles ready for, but I haven't just quite started yet. I was trying to get one of these other projects off the needles first. So I've decided to have a go at Mina Phillips 2 at a time socks, because I thought that was really interesting how you could knit a pair at the same time. I don't really get second stocks Dendro, but I thought it'd be interesting anyway to be able to knit them both at the same time. So I thought I'd try out some of this Drops Fable yarn as well. It's really, really cheap yarn, and I've heard some good things about it off some other podcasters. So I'm going to try knitting a pair of socks 2 at a time from Mina's pattern with those. And I've got 2 balls, so I can I don't have to reskein or anything. And I'm not quite sure, it doesn't really look as if it's very striping. It looks like it's sort of variegated, so I'm hoping it doesn't matter where I start the yarn, because if I'm starting the 2 at a time I can't work out where to start the second yarn because I don't know the order of the striping yet. Anyway, I'm rambling on now, but that's my socks. A couple of weeks ago I went to a wedding in Edinburgh, and I just happened to go to a yarn shop in the city of Edinburgh, because I could not go to a yarn shop. I was adamant that I was going to buy some locally dyed yarn, and I found myself at a place called Ginger Twist Studios, and it was the most gorgeous little shop, and I happened to buy some yarn. So this is what I bought. It's actually coming out a little bit brighter than it is in the skein. It's sort of a muted blue-green and a grey sort of colour there, and I've skeined up one ready here. You might be able to see the colour a little bit better. Looks like a greeny grey yarn there. So the yarn is made of 60% merino, 20% yak and 20% silk, and this is on the Ginger Twist Studios Yakety Yak base, and it's a 4-ply. So I've got planned for this great things. So I've bought one of the pom-pom magazines, the back issues, which I know I'm late to finding these magazines, but I know they're such a wonderful quarterly magazine, which I've only just got into really. So I've purchased the Water Lily edition. I can't actually remember which number it was, but I can, if anybody wants to find out which edition it is, if you give me a shout and I can send you a personal message. So I'm going to do the Water Lily out of that. So if those of you who don't know what the Water Lily pattern is, it's like a short sleeve little top with a lace panel across the top, and I think that would be really lovely. It's so soft to the skin. That'd be really nice. Anyway, I did actually show this yarn on the last episode. This is the yarn that's from Mallory Go, and it's the Mallory Go sock base in the Lotus colourway, and I'm going to be doing the Mina Phillips Sugar Plum shawl with that one. So I've actually purchased the pattern now, ready to bake, and I've got my needles ready, just waiting for that to get started now. Right, so before I go on to my spinning, I'm going to tell you about the yarn I've purchased. So I went, well, I'd seen that Deb from Fondant Fiber had a shop update, so I had to go and have a look, even though I don't need any more yarn. And I saw this. It was absolutely gorgeous. I think it's coming out a little bit less pink than it is in real life, but it's got it's like a pale pink with little dark speckles of purple in it. Oh, and it's so pretty. I could not resist it. I think it's going to be socks, but I'm not sure yet. So this is called, this is a new base, I think, that she's got, and it's the Hardy Plus colourway, not colourway, base, I'm sorry about that. And it's basically got merino and nylon, but a slightly higher percentage of nylon there, so that it's a little bit more tough wearing. And this is called Mauve Over Darling, and it's such a gorgeous colourway. I really like how Fondant Fiber always puts these beautiful ribbons in to tie their skeins off. It's so lovely. Anyway, oh, it's so nice. Anyway, now on to spinning. So those of you who watched my last episode, you'll know that I purchased some merino top that's been hand dyed from an Etsy shop called Gone Woolly. So this is her label, that's Gone Woolly, and this particular colourway is called Atlantic Shallows, and it's a pure merino blend. And this is, well, I'm sorry it's a bit of a mess because I've had it out to spin, but there's some different shades of blue and green and the natural colour coming through there, so it's a really nice mix of colours there. So I haven't had a chance to spin much of it, but this is what it looks like so far. Oh, it's not the best spinning in the world. I'm trying to adapt my technique a little bit more so that I'm not pinching quite so much, so that it becomes a little bit more relaxing. But I'm really liking how the colours come up there. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that comes out. So I'm trying to spin about a double knit weight here. And I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to make out of them, but it's because it's 100% merino. I don't really want to just make socks out of it because it won't be so hard wearing. Perhaps some mittens or a cowl or something with that. So I'm really pleased. So I've got a small section of bobbin lace here to show you. So last week I showed you a little lavender bag cover that I haven't actually finished making yet, but I will get around to it and I'll show you when it's finished. So if you watched Tilly's podcast, you'll know that I've been working on some bobbin lace flowers, which I'm going to use in my bouquet for my wedding. And I've been working on some of the different petals. So obviously they'll look a bit tidier than this when I've made them up into the flower, but I've been duplicating these centre petals, so it's going to be like a lily flower, and these petals here are going to be the centre portion, and then I need to make 3 of these type of petal and 2 of those type of petal for each flower. I don't see if I can get a little bit closer to the camera to these petals. So these are my favourite actually. There's a lot more detail in there and they take quite a bit longer than the other petals. So for each So obviously I've got enough for 4 flowers there with the centre petal, but I need to catch up with making the other ones. So just to give you an idea of what the flowers might look like, this isn't exactly the same pattern because I haven't got a photograph of it made up, but this is the sort of thing that it might look like. And you could add some stamens in the centre to make it a little bit more like a flower. So hopefully next episode I'll be able to show you a flower completed. But I need to make sure I move on to the other petal types there. So I think that's, oh, I know. So that's all the things I've been working on this week, sort of for myself. But I had a message off a nice lady called, I'm sorry, I'm probably pronouncing your name incorrectly, but it's Merja from Finland. And she asked me if I'd make her a butterfly themed bag, because I've been doing some DPN cases with butterflies on, and she fancied a bag to match, sort of thing. So I've been working on one of these for Merja. And this is what I come up with. So it's similar to my heart style bag with 3 little butterflies with the free motion applique. And then I've done on the back, I free motioned my name, crafthousemagic.co.uk, and then inside I've got my little label and a cute little pink pocket to put lots of things in. I always like pockets in bags. So that'll be heading its way to you, Merja, soon, along with this little notions pouch. It's a little butterfly, and then I've done some free motion on the back. And then the DPN cases are actually, this is pretty similar to the ones I've got for sale on my Etsy shop, but I'm thinking about making some more of those to sell on my Etsy shop because I really enjoyed making them and it come out really pretty, so I quite fancy doing some more of those. So I'd like to say thank you to everybody for joining me today, and I hope for you to join me next time, probably in maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Okay, thank you. Bye.